Now, countless banks in the UK have announced that they might be closing down their British account holders who are living in the EU. Now, what does this show? That's going to be the topic of today's video. Now, countless banks have said that they're going to potentially close down the bank accounts of many British people living in the European Union. And what they've said is it's going to be more expensive because of certain licenses or whatever. So if the UK doesn't get a good deal with the EU, basically because of passporting rights, they're going to kind of close down many accounts. And I think this shows two things. Now, number one, what it shows is it's very important to have portable expat solutions for people who are living overseas, because things can change. And so having portable expat investments and bank accounts is important, because I've heard it time and time again where people have been forced to liquidate positions. With bank accounts is one thing, but I've had so many people come to me saying, oh, my brokerage account has wrote to me saying they'll close down my account, I'm going to have to pay a huge tax bill. So it's very important before becoming an expat, or if you're already an expat, to have a portable solution, whereby if you move from country to country, things aren't going to get affected. But number two, it shows what's happening in the banking sector. Now, what do I mean by that? A few weeks ago, not just a few weeks ago, actually, this has happened to me countless times, where somebody has tried to send me money to one of my non-UK or non-EU bank accounts, and it didn't work. Basically, the bank sent the money back, the traditional bank. Then they used something like Revolut or Monzo, and it was in my account within 10 minutes. And there was a very extreme case, this happened 2 or 3 times now, where somebody's tried to send me money and it just hasn't worked. But then with these particular faster ways of sending money, everything's gone through very seamlessly. And I think what it shows though is it's all about efficiency of processes. Banks, and I mentioned this on another one of my videos about anti-money laundering, they very conveniently have their own rules for this kind of thing. So I gave an example of how one of my clients, he was doing so many high-risk things that included online banking, online gambling, which, as I'm sure you know, is one of the most high-risk money laundering activities. It included, being in 5 countries in 6 days because he was traveling for business. It included so many things like that. Yet conveniently, when he sent money to an investment account, the security department, the anti-money laundering department said, this is for anti-money laundering. Are you sure this is not a scam? Blah, blah, blah. Obviously, they have their own self-interest. My prediction is this. A lot of the traditional old school banks are going to close down people's accounts. But a lot of those kind of newer fintech firms, they're just going to be more efficient with the processes. And we're increasingly seeing that the bigger banks are always using excuses like compliance, or licenses or whatever. But then interestingly, you'll see some of the challenger banks who are regulated in exactly the same way, who will somehow magically be able to do these things. And that shows it's not about compliance. Revolut are, they're regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK. Many banks who are blaming compliance are also regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK. It reminds me of after COVID. For years before COVID, I challenged a few companies and said, why can't you accept e-signatures? They said, it's our compliance. Then COVID came along and suddenly, magically, they're able to accept e-signatures. And nothing has changed with the regulation. So I think that deep down, a lot of these banks, if the UK crashes out, well, it's already out of the EU, but if the UK doesn't get a good deal with the EU, we'll see though a fracturing. I don't think 100% of the banks will close down the accounts of British account holders. It will be those old school banks that just don't want to change their processes. They're very conservative in their ways. They interpret the legislation very conservatively. Those are going to be the ones who are going to close down the accounts first. Okay, everyone, I've got some really exciting news today. So for a couple of years now, many people have asked me, well, look, I can't afford your minimum investments, but I really like your advice. I don't know if you can do this or you can do that, or you can help me in that way, or you can't help me in that way. I've always said, no, I can only do this or that, but I've got some really exciting news, and that's that in a couple of months before the end of the year, I will be bringing out what I'm calling the Adam Fayed Academy, which will have many new areas which will be of interest to people. So things like mentoring, tutoring, all those kind of things that people have asked me for in the past. So stay tuned. I'm going to be announcing it in the next few months, but I thought I would tell it to you guys before. Let me know if there's anything in particular that you're looking for in this academy. We're going to be focusing on many different areas, including how to invest productively, also some business areas, because that's another thing people have asked me about before. So stay tuned and I'll keep you up to date.